everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Khofaune. I'm Khofaune and we're here live at the Forbes Leading Women Africa, and I'm joined by an incredible woman who's firmly said to me that she believes that she is simply the best and no one can change her mind. Hello, ma'am.
Good morning, Khofaune, and thank you very much for really welcoming me and having me in this interview.
Right. I'm sure a lot of people introduce you and you're used to the very flamboyant and very descriptive introductions, but I'd love for you to tell me who you see yourself as and why, what is your reason for being?
Thank you very much. I've just shared with you that I was raised in a family that made each one of us, 7 children, believe that we are the best that can be, that we're not incomplete, that we must be proud of ourselves, and we must also acknowledge that we have unique talents and unique contributions to make, and that we're not children of a lesser God.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl, you're still precious to mom and dad.
Right.
And we shared chores at home. If it was time for cleaning, we know everybody, boy, girl, you'll have your opportunity. It's cooking, changing globes, doing gardening. Everyone will have an opportunity. So I'm really one of the privileged children who come from families that were nurturing like that. We know it is not necessarily the case in every way, and that is why we have some of the barriers on self-confidence and lack of access to opportunities that many girls and women have. So, as I say, I'm one of the fortunate ones, and mine is to contribute, and as we rise, we lift.
As we rise, we lift, absolutely. I'm pretty sure back then, if they had known who you'd be now and the power that you hold, they wouldn't have made you change globes and wash dishes, eh?
Well, if you can't change globes and wash dishes, you can't be trusted with anything else. I think it was Martin Luther King who, inspiring the civil rights movement, that be the best you can be as a black person. If you're a street sweeper, sweep it the cleanest. If you are a leader, be the benchmark. So it doesn't matter what you do. Whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability. Be the benchmark.
Right. And as women, especially a woman, female leader as you are now, how do we move past actually women empowerment beyond affirmative action? We talk about it, we have these seminars, but now you've also mentioned something very critical in terms of the home state, that it starts at home, it starts with our whole upbringing and so on. So in terms of that, how would you kind of say, how do we move beyond just affirmative action?
If you look at the various commitments, both at the United Nations level on gender equality and women empowerment, or the African Union agenda, and we are now also infusing the gender agenda in other multilateral platforms like the BRICS, expanded BRICS platforms and all that. If you look at all those platforms, they have developed research-based analysis of the barriers and the possible enablers. And I really want to recommend that leaders of institutions, whether it's community-based, faith-based, in governments, in the corporate, must appraise themselves of this wealth of knowledge to empower us to achieve gender equality in our lifetime, and because that really will progress all of society. For example, the theme of today Forbes Women's Awards, it focuses on the ICT environment. The marketplace is shifting to the ICT digital platforms. Education is shifting to digital platforms, making women, girls, and also boys to appreciate that and enabling them to get onto those platforms and be successful is absolutely key at the moment. We're also concerned, for instance, that the violence and conflicts in the world seems to be on the increase. Responsible leaders must hold back, must stop. Civilization must also be identified by the practice of Ubuntu in my own culture. To look at another human being as you. You are because I am. And if we adopt the Ubuntu culture globally, we will prefer the negotiating table than to use military arsenals against vulnerable communities, women and children, like is happening in the Middle East, like is happening between Russia and Ukraine, and in some other African countries, although it is reduced. But that peace is an enabler. Women suffer more in conflict areas, and they also their progress is slowed down extensively in conflict areas. So peace is very critical for that. The direct empowerment of women relates mainly to education, relevant to the economic needs. It relates to health, so that the reproductive role that women have in society are supported. Women have a right to give birth safely and not die or have complications because of childbirth. And also the girl child to really stay longer in education without teenage pregnancies and all that. So adolescent health and family planning are critical. And another identified enabler is parity in wages. Many women still earn less for the same amount of labor that they give in the economy, even at an executive level. So, and last but not least is that we need to have monitoring instruments as part of leadership and society organized formation to assess baselines and to ensure that we have progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and where we see that we are regressing, we must again use knowledge-based analysis and instruments to understand why and to innovate new and better ways of accelerating progress. Gender equality is acknowledged even by the UN institutions like the World Bank and all that as necessary for accelerating economic prosperity of nations and of the world, in eradication of poverty, and indeed in making gender equality dividend realizable.
Yes.
Thank you.
And as you talk about research, I know that a very conversation that's, I think, organizations, and I'd love for you to just maybe highlight on that, is between gender equity and gender equality.
Yes.
I think we're understanding the concept of gender equality, but also we need to empower organizations and governments to understand gender equity. Again, going back to your point about the gender pay gap and so on, and yet it's still a problem we're facing this year.
So we also experienced it with our national soccer team. Banyana, we had to help fundraise for them to have a little bit more comfortable, not as the Bafana have, as part and parcel of inspiring them to go and do the best they could do. And they were the first soccer team to really go to the World Cup on merit. We know that the World Cup in South Africa, we played as Bafana because we were the hosts, not because we deserved it. But we're glad that they took us to be the third in the recent recent times, Bafana Bafana, and we are proud of them. And we also say they are our boys, born of women as well.
Absolutely. And in closing, what would you say in terms of, not really in terms of, but what would you say to a young woman who may aspire to be like you at some point?
Yes.
Because I'm understanding that everything really just came from within.
Yes.
For you to lead others, you need to be able to lead yourself. So you can look into the camera, or you can look at me. I know I'm very pretty, but you can look into the camera and maybe give them advice on how best to have an outlook on life.
For all our young women in Africa and also in the world, we must remember that we are complete human beings. We have full human rights, and that we also have a right to be happy and to prosper, and that we must always be the best we can be. We have unique talents, whether in arts, whether in education, in sports, in whatever field we desire to pursue. We are the best that can be, and we can achieve beyond measure. We have forebears that we must learn from, who broke glass ceilings, and actually many of them found that there were really no ceilings, and the skies are the limit. The world is their oyster. They must just go out there, be the best they can. And should they find themselves in difficulties, because we know the world can be harsh, they must break the silence. Someone you trust, talk to them. These difficulties, if we join hands, we are able to overcome together.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, Maya. You have been such a gift and such a blessing. And thank you all for watching. As you've heard, you are a complete human being. Go out and be the best. Thank you.